나와 우리 국가를 상대로 전쟁을 걸어보지 못합니다. 미국 본토 전역이 우리의 핵 타격 사정권 안에 있으며 핵 단추가 내 사무실 책상 위에 항상 놓여 있다는 것. 이는 결코 위협이 아닌 현실임을 똑바로 알아야 합니다. 핵탄두들과 탄도로켓들을 대량 생산하여 실전 배치하는 사업에 박차를 가해 나갑니다. 남조선에서 머지않아 열리는 겨울철 올림픽 경기대회에 대해 말한다면 그것은 민족의 위상을 과시하는 좋은 계기가 될 것이며 우리는 대회가 성과적으로 개최되기를 진심으로 바랍니다. 이러한 현지에서 우리는 대표단 파견을 포함하여 필요한 조치를 취할 여유가 있으면 이를 위해 북남미 시급히 만날 수도 있을 것입니다.
U.S. officials are telling CNN that North Korea may be taking steps for another ballistic missile launch in the coming days. Let's get straight to CNN's Barbara Starr at the Pentagon. Barbara, you broke the story. What are you learning?
Hi, Dana. Well, multiple U.S. officials are telling us now that there are new signs that North Korea may be preparing for another ballistic missile test. Doesn't look like it's a satellite this time. They actually have indicators that if this does proceed, if there is a test, it is likely to be yet another ballistic missile test. Coming at a very sensitive time, as we've talked about, the Olympics coming up after the first of the year, some U.S. military exercises potentially not happening on their routine schedule, trying to keep everything calm in the region. Earlier today, Defense Secretary James Mattis visited the press corps here in the Pentagon for a little end-of-the-year chat, and he was asked about all of this, and he talked about North Korea very broadly, very much on the no-drama page for the end of the year, very much emphasizing diplomacy buttressed by economic sanctions, because he wanted to make clear diplomacy is not just words, as he said, but they're going to really continue to press for real economic teeth in this. And of course, next month, Secretary of State Rex Tillerson travels to Vancouver, Canada to meet with allies for an international discussion about what may come next in North Korea. If, in fact, Kim proceeds with a missile test at this time, it's going to be very interesting to figure out what his motivation may be.
Back with me is Republican Congressman Lee Zeldin. You just heard Barbara's report, Congressman. If North Korea does conduct a launch, how should the U.S. respond?
I don't know how much it's going to change. I mean, we've identified what our top options look like. They all involve China. We operate under the principle of DIME, diplomacy, information, military economics, and these are all concepts that they're interrelated. Where you want to have multilateral diplomacy, you need to ramp up economic pressure to make both of them work, to have a strong information campaign in North Korea, and also to have the military option on the table. It's all important. But the fact is, if we were to go down a list of all of the options here of how to deal with North Korea, the only good options that we come up with, they're going to involve China. So we just need to continue that particular aspect of the effort, as well as plan for the possibility of having the full range of conventional to unconventional options if we have to use the military option, but it absolutely has to be the last possible option to use.
No question. You mentioned China. Obviously, this is something that the president has been working on for almost a year since he's been in office. And in fact, in this New York Times interview, he admitted that he has been softer on China on trade issues than he had planned. But that he said, look at this, the following: if they don't help us with North Korea, then I do what I've said I want to do. Meaning he's going to really try to beat back on their trade policies that he's been holding back on because he wants them to work with the U.S. and other global allies on North Korea. How do you interpret that?
Yeah, that makes sense. The president, when he was going through his campaign, and since he, on the economic front, has expressed a lot of concern for the trade interaction, the deficit that we face with China, the amount of debt that's owed, that he's brought up the currency front, the
But you think he's
IP,
been right? He's been right to sort of
aspect.
pull back on that in the hopes that China is more aggressive on North Korea? Because as you've seen this week, the president has been publicly frustrated that he says China isn't complying with some of the UN sanctions on North Korea.
That's right. Yeah, and I think that he is certainly looking to and willing to revisit that strategy over the course of 2017. We were seeing that strategy working where, for example, over the summer, there was a UN Security Council resolution vote passed unanimously, including China, including Russia, that effectively cuts off over a third of North Korea's exports. As far as ramping up economic pressure, that China vote, that Russia vote was huge. There was a decision earlier in the year where China agreed to stop the importing, or I should say the exporting to North Korea of coal. There was progress over the course of 2017, but what the president is saying, my interpretation over the course of these last couple days, with this story as it relates to oil, which is a big deal if true, and to what extent it's true, as well as China's plan going forward, the president should be mentioning that he does have other priorities, he has other options if necessary, but he really doesn't want to. We don't want to have to go about this issue with North Korea without China's help.
Yeah, you can't.
There is no good option without China.